Welcome everyone to the first Foxify podcast. Today we're joined by James Pelton. James, it's great to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You're welcome. Yeah, really looking forward to it. Many of you will know James from his YouTube channel, where he shares his journey around passive income and entrepreneurship, dabbles in a little bit of crypto and DeFi as well. So I'm actually really looking forward to having James today, as usually James is on the other side and he's the one doing the interviewing. So it's good to get you in the hot seat, James.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. This will help me empathize more with my my guests when I have them. So yeah, no, I'm excited.
Definitely. Is this the first time you've done it on the other side?
I've done some like podcasts and things like that. People just who kind of want to hear my story, my journey, things like that. So,
cool.
But yeah, not as much interview style. So yeah, I'm excited.
I say interview style. It's probably going to be more chatty than that. I'm probably overselling it. Cool. So let's start a little bit about your journey there and tell us a bit about yourself, James.
Sure. Yeah. So I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm pretty open about, I'm doxxed and all those things. I loved computers since I was a little kid. I was like first, second grade. I was getting PHP for Dummies and Perl in a Nutshell and all these books from the library. And my parents were like, hey, have you ever thought about like comic books or something else? And that's just not, I just love computers. I love that you could kind of make them do whatever you wanted them to do. So taught myself to program. Then right out of college, I started doing e-commerce and all sorts of different computer stuff for different companies. This was kind of when the internet was starting to take over. So there was like just tons of job openings. Everybody was looking for e-commerce and things like that. Eventually, I wrote my own software. I started my own business where I send out mass text messages. So some of the text message marketing craze, I kind of was a part of the beginning of that and ran that business until 2020. Then I sold it. Then I had money sitting around for investing. So I started getting into venture capital. I got into some real estate and eventually worked my way into crypto. And I was like, wow, I make as much in a month as I make in a year with my real estate. And I don't have to deal with tenants. So then I haven't really looked back since I got into crypto and started my YouTube channel just as a way. Nobody in my real life is interested in crypto. I would be telling them, hey, there's this new project that's doing this. And they'd say, we don't care about that. And so I was like, YouTube, that's where I'm going to get the word out about these things. And it's my outlet for projects I'm excited about.
Yeah, I find, and I actually tweeted something about this the other day, but I forget how much non-crypto people don't care about crypto. Or like they're really negative about it sometimes as well, aren't they? It's a scam just because a lot of people don't understand it. So it's funny you say that because I was literally thinking about that the other day, how people in real life don't care.
Yeah. And they don't understand. Like I've talked, there's a few investments where I've talked with them about, hey, we should do an NFT collection. We could raise a bunch of money for this great investment. And they say, aren't NFTs dead? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not saying like Bored Ape Yacht Club. I'm just saying you could make an NFT, raise money, but people they don't understand it. They don't think that way. They just see what's on the news. So it's fun being part of a community of people that kind of get it. Like I know you get it, and so it's fun to be part of this community.
Absolutely. Yeah, the news is not doing crypto any favors at the moment, is it?
No, not at all.
Not at all. So you worked in software. Do you know, I forgot about, like SMS marketing and stuff. You don't see it as much these days, do you?
In the States, we do. The States, it's still a big thing. The States still use SMS quite a bit, whereas the rest of the world's kind of moved to WhatsApp or, other things. But in the States, SMS marketing still big and still thriving. So, but yeah, it's pretty annoying. I kind of regret that it's turned into just a lot of spam text, especially around like election season. So I regret the part I had to play in that, but it is what it is. People used my technology for evil. I didn't intend that.
No, well, do you know, it made me laugh because I forgot about SMS really. And we recently signed up to an office. I work from home a lot. So like, do you know what? We need some work-life balance here. We need to separate things. And we signed up to an office. And whenever this office manager texts me, they obviously text me from some sort of computer software, because at the end, there's always a little footnote that's like reply here, and it gives me a mobile number.
Yeah.
And I was like, I forgot people could even do this. I remember as a kid when, no, I don't think this is a UK thing. I assume this is like global, and all teens and kids would have been in the same boat, but getting like a set amount of text messages or a set amount of minutes. And so I'd go and find like a free text website where you could send like 10 free texts a day from your internet.
Yep, that was definitely when the US, or when we kind of switched to unlimited texting on all plans. That's when the text marketing took off, because then nobody was upset that you're receiving these texts. Well, I mean, some people were upset, but they weren't upset because they were paying for it. And so, yeah, it really took off. And I got in. It was the right thing at the right time. Because I was kind of in at the beginning. And so a lot of the big, like Steak and Shake, Ghirardelli chocolate, I mean, we had some big companies that were just looking, and we just happened to be one of the only options at the time. So then, and once they start using you, they don't want to switch away because they already have so much invested into it. So then they became, just long-term customers. So yeah, right place, right time.
Really interesting concept though. What made you think about, do you know what we need? We need text marketing. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, actually. So this is something I've learned as an entrepreneur, but your best use cases are ones that you have yourself. And so I was also a part-time pastor. So I kind of a unique skill set, computer guy and pastor. But we were looking for just a way to let our college group know, hey, we're going to, this restaurant after church tonight. And we had a terrible time getting them. We had like 100 kids in the college group. We're like, how do we let everyone know that this is happening? And we tried Twitter, we tried like phone tree type stuff, but there was no way for everyone to get the message. And so then I thought, well, how would we do it manually? We would do text messages. So then I quickly threw something together where people could subscribe to receive text messages. And then we could go on to the software and just say, hey, we're going to Arby's for dinner tonight. And it would text out to everybody. And then some other churches heard about it. And then they started asking. And after about the 80th church, I thought maybe this is a business idea. And kind of built it from there.
Wow. That's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? How something that actually you just wanted for your own ease, like to make your life a bit easier. And actually everyone needed text marketing. And
that's what I found, is that your pain points tend to, like, you're not that unique, like your pain points are other people's pain points as well. So if you can become your ideal customer, then you can build the software perfectly, because what would I want? How would I want it to work? How would I want the UI to look? And you can answer all those questions for yourself. And so you can just make a really great product is what I found.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I've dabbled in e-commerce in the past, and where I was always the most successful is I was my target customer. I understood them. I was them. I was buying what I was selling. Do you see? Like, so I think it is crucial to if you can see that, and like say, if your pain point is not going to be unique to you, it's going to be, the same for other people. So absolutely, you can come up with a solution to that and get the word out. Then especially like you say, like right place, right time. You obviously got in there very early. So
yes. Well, and like, in marketing, they teach you to build a customer avatar, like who's your ideal customer. And then you try to answer all your questions as them. But if you can be your own avatar, then you can answer all the questions perfectly. I don't even need to get feedback from other people. I can just say, well, how do you want this to look? Well, I want it to look this way. And then it's nice to being the entrepreneur and the programmer, because then I don't have to, sometimes there's a disconnect there where the entrepreneur has a vision, but then the programmer doesn't quite share the vision. And but if I can have the vision and I can build the vision, then you can kind of make it exactly as you want. So it's worked out really well.
Definitely. So how long were you running that business for?
So I started it as a side project in 2011, and then I sold it in 2020. So I worked my 9-to-5 job probably 2 or 3 years before I quit and took it full time. Actually, I had 3 employees, but I was still working my 9-to-5 because e-commerce pays pretty well. And so, it took a while for my business, my side project, to get to the point where, hey, this can replace my income. So, and that's kind of how I recommend it too for entrepreneurs, is you don't have to, burn the ships behind you and quit your job and go, like, you can start something on the side. Like I worked in the evenings before I had kids. It's harder when you have kids. But then you just kind of build it to, oh, wait, hey, this is big enough now where I can probably take it full time. And then, it was a lot less risky than going out selling, quitting my job, taking another mortgage on my house and starting this business. Just doing it on the side. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And if, about the kids thing, oh my God, I think until you have kids, you don't realize how much spare time you have before kids, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, pre-kids, 100%, if you've got a passion about something, I think, really going for that around, your current life. So it doesn't have to make huge dents in your income or your finances. It doesn't have to make huge dents in like your security. You can start doing this stuff, in the evenings and the weekends and building up from there.
Yep. Yep. And I highly recommend, if there's people in their 20s that are watching, a lot of people spend their 20s just kind of messing around and like kind of wasting time. And on one hand, you want to find good balance. Like there's nothing wrong with, going out or whatever you do, spending time with your friends, but just know, once you get into your 30s, once you have a family and you have a mortgage and you start getting kids or whatever the case might be, a lot of your freedom is going to be gone. And so just I recommend, for if you're in your 20s, spend this time wisely, and you can really set yourself up well for the future. So that's something that I would encourage. If you're in your young 20s watching, don't spend all your time watching Netflix, is something I would say.
Oh my God, I completely agree. That's something I think about. I say a lot, not all the time, because that makes me sound really miserable, but frequently enough that I do think about it. Is if I knew now, like if I knew then what I know now in terms of the freedom I had, the opportunities I could have created for myself before I had, the ties of children and a mortgage and just life admin, right? Then I would have been a lot more productive with my time, I think, in my early 20s than I actually was.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, and I was like, I'm working on some projects right now. I've put my coder hat back on. But like yesterday, I was in the middle of coding, and I was kind of, programmers getting this flow where it's like we're getting a lot done. And it was 5:45, and all my kids came in, and they said, "Hey, it's after 5. You got to get off." And I was just sitting there. I was like, "Oh no, but I got to get this done." And so again, in my 20s, I probably would have kept coding until midnight 1. I would have gotten it all finished. And so now just a lot more. And I'm not saying kids are a blessing, right? Like, so it's not like, oh, you're holding me back from what I want to do. But just use your 20s wisely, I would say. And the energy you have in your 20s. Like I can't stay up late. I can't get up as early. I can't. I mean, I'm 35, so I'm not like old, I guess, but I'm feeling it, getting older.
Yeah, for me as well. It's like you say, that the times that you can go to sleep and the times that you wake up, you just don't have the same energy. And so yesterday, I've recently started like a foundation degree. I went to uni back in my early 20s, did something completely different. So I'm doing just a bit of online night school, basically, just to, try and get my brain engaged. And I'm having to do it like after 7 p.m. every day, because that is the only time I can fit it in around work and the kids.
Yep.
And I think once you've got the kids and you've got the work, actually to engage your brain that late at night becomes much more difficult.
Right. Yep. I totally agree. Can I ask how many? I know this is an interview of me, but how many kids do you have? Can I ask? 2. Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I've got 3. Yep. So got a 10-year-old girl, 8-year-old boy, and 6-year-old boy. So
okay. Oh, I feel like you're coming out of the better end of it. Mine are 4 and 2.
Oh yeah. That's tough.
Really difficult. Don't sleep very often.
Yeah. No, that's
I'm in the thick of it. I feel like once they're at school, I'm hoping it will ease off ever so slightly.
It's nice. Yeah, like my 10-year-old, they're pretty much, they can entertain themselves. That was a hard thing when they were younger, is they're always kind of looking to you to entertain them and things like that. And you don't want to just always put them in front of the TV, and but as they get older, like she's reading books and and she's able to play with the other kids. So yeah, it definitely gets a lot easier. Hang in there. It gets easier.
I'm trying. No, they are fun. They are hard work, but fun. So we touched a little bit on how and why you sort of started YouTube. So tell us a bit more about that. How did you grow? Obviously, YouTube's really competitive, I think. And I think if you didn't get in like 2009, it's quite difficult, I think, to establish yourself. So how did you go about doing that? What was your journey there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I kind of, again, I was talking with everybody in my real life about, at the time it was like strong notes, like what is this? And it's, I'm making 26% a month and it's bonkers. And eventually my wife, she was like, hey, I don't care about this crypto stuff very much. I love that you love it, but I don't really want to talk about it 24/7 like you seem to want to. And I was like, well, what do I do? And she said, how about you start a YouTube channel? And then the people who want to hear it can go watch it. And I don't necessarily have to hear about it all the time. And I was like, okay. So my goal was I started in December of 2021. So I've been going just about over a year, and my goal was I want 1,000 subscribers. That's when you get monetized in 6 months was kind of my goal. And I don't really, this is a hot take, but I don't really do any of the things that like they say YouTubers should do to grow. Like I don't spend a ton of time on like brainstorming my thumbnails or my titles. I try not to be too clickbaity. I don't really have a strategy for what I'm doing. Hey, I'm going to just make whatever content I enjoy, whatever I feel like making. If I ever feel like it's a job, I'm going to stop immediately because like I'm not doing this to replace income. I already have my money. I don't need this for the money. So I kind of just came out and, hey, what am I excited about? And I think people resonated with, oh, he's actually excited about this. Like he's actually, I think people just kind of felt connected through that. And I was not expecting it to. I think in 6 months, I was aiming for 1,000. I had 30,000, and I was not.
That's wild.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. And my faith is really important to me. So from my perspective, it seems like the Lord has really blessed, and has kind of said, "Hey, this is what I want you to do." And so yeah, I have no tips though for how to grow your YouTube or anything. I would just say be authentic, and don't try to. People can tell when you're doing a presentation. So if you just come out and say, hey, here's what I actually think, here's what I actually feel, then people kind of feel like, oh, we're friends with him. Like he's honest with me. He's more honest with me than my friends in real life. And so that's the one tip that I would give to people.
That's impressive. I didn't realize you'd started as late as December 21. So you really did grow like rapidly.
Yeah. And there was it surprised me. I remember New Year's Eve, I did like a live stream about some project. I think it was Police and Thieves or something. Some play to earn game. And I remember I had like 25,000 people ended up total watching. And I was like, where did all these people come from? But it was, again, kind of right place, right time. It was bull market vibes. So, everything I was talking about ended up 2xing, 5xing. And so I looked like a genius because every single project was going up so quickly. So yeah, right place, right time. And it's been working well and I really enjoy it.
Good. Yeah, no, like I say, that's super impressive. To grow that quickly. I think when there is so much competition on YouTube as well, it's massively oversaturated in some areas. I don't think I could name anyone really in recent times that's grown that quickly. So
yeah, well, in the bear market made it way harder. I think for new YouTubers, but for people who have kind of stuck around in this space, because a lot of YouTubers just kind of close shop. Like they're like, hey, our views, like views. I mean, you can look at any crypto YouTubers and their views are half of what they were in the bull market. And so a lot of people, that was too discouraging. So a lot of people are like, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. But people don't realize too, YouTube doesn't make you hardly any money. Like I'm on on DeFi, I'm on the bigger end of YouTubers in DeFi. And my ads from YouTube bring in like $1,400 a month. Like it's not even enough. And it's full time for me, like that's what I do all the time. So I think a lot of YouTubers were just like, hey, this isn't worth it. And you have to deal with all the hate and all the things of the bear market too. And but as YouTubers have shut down, the people who have stuck around, I think their following has been kind of solidified as they've stuck around through the bear market. So
yeah, absolutely. I think Yeah, one thing I did want to touch on was, the hate and the scrutiny actually that YouTube influencers can get. And I think, certainly in the bear market, you've seen a lot of crypto or DeFi influencers really, really struggle with that and leave YouTube, maybe pivot a bit to try and come away from some of that trolling. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the scrutiny or the trolls or the hate that YouTube influencers can get?
Yeah. It was kind of a difficult journey for me. In person, I'm pretty much a people pleaser. So like I try not to have the Bible says, as far as it depends on you, be at peace with all people. And so that's kind of in person. Like I just get along with everybody. Like there's not a lot of conflict or anything. And when you're a small YouTuber, pretty much all your subscribers just love you. So when you have 1,000, 5,000 subscribers, it's a pretty tight knit community. And so I was just kind of loving that. And then as you start to get bigger, just inevitably, you start to have these people who maybe you lost them money. I'm going to do that in quotes. But you called something wrong, or they just get in their head, oh, he's a shill, he's just doing this to make money. And then they go tell people, and then some other people are like, yeah, he is a shill. And one thing I've realized is indignation, like righteous anger, feels really good for people. And so at first I took it super personally, and I like made it my goal. I'm going to respond to every person and win them over. But I found it just got worse. The more I responded to people, the worse I got. Like I would say, well, no, the definition of a shill is someone who talks about something in a way they don't believe so that they'll trick you into buying it. I would never do that. I will only say what I actually think. And they would say, well, no, that's not how I define. And it just made them more angry. And so it really bothered me. Probably in like July of this last year, I considered, you know what? I don't need the money. This is causing me stress every day. Maybe I just shut down YouTube and just like do something else. And it was really my community. Like I have a paid community who are like, I would call them my family. Like they're, with MDB, like you have your community, you have the public out there, and it's like, fine, say whatever you're going to say. Then you have your community. And it's like, hey, I'm doing this for you guys. And that really, when I make my videos now, I'm aiming at the, 1,000 people in my community rather than the 51,000 people that I don't know that are nameless. And so over time, as they kind of like, as I get hate on Twitter or whatever, I kind of just, honestly, my policy now is I just block them. It's like, hey, there's people who appreciate what I'm doing. I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to be true to the Lord. I'm going to be true to my family. I'm going to be true to my community. If you don't like that, it doesn't really bother me. And so I've gotten very block happy recently. It's made my life a lot better, I would say.
Yeah, you're right. Do you know, I have sort of two different, what would the word be? I guess perspective on this, in the sense that I actually was an influencer, in inverted commas, in a past life, not in DeFi. So slightly different audience. I do think DeFi people are a lot angrier.
Yeah.
than the general public, in my experience. And then obviously, like you say, through MDB. And I think early days in MDB, if anyone said anything bad in any server, I would be in there, be defending us. And I'd be hang on a minute, this is not true. This is not the case. Why are you saying this? And actually, there comes a point where you realize you've just got to let it go. Especially when these people are 99% of the time anonymous. They're not, if you cross them in the street, would they say this stuff to your face?
Nope.
They absolutely wouldn't. And I think that's just something to really remember. But I think for new people in the space, it is difficult. And I do think it takes a period of time to grow the thicker skin where you're actually do you know what? It doesn't matter. You don't matter. Your opinion's wrong. And a lot of the time, I don't think they even believe what they're saying. I think that they're just there to, stir up a bit of drama.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's something I'm still working through. Sometimes there'll be certain usually when people comment on my faith in some way, because that's really important to me. And people say, oh, a man of God wouldn't do that. Those types of comments, just it's still, I have to just really, okay, I'm not going to think about it. They don't know me. They don't know anything about me. They're just, like you said, they're anonymous. They're not thinking of me as an actual person with an actual family who has to, carry the burden of all these people hating me when I leave the computer. And so over time, though, it's been great for my personal growth. I think
Yeah.
it's helped me in my real life as well. Just, hey, you know what? I can't care what everyone thinks about me. Like, that's just not plausible. And it doesn't really matter. You know, if these people, you don't know them, they're faceless, they're anonymous. It's like, okay, they don't like you. It's like, well, it shouldn't affect me in any way. So it's been a really great growth process for me.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And I think just sort of going back to the shill, as they call it, I think this shill thing really bothers me, actually.
Yeah.
And this is from, I guess, from the perspective of where I used to be an influencer, as like I said, in inverted commas. But what people fail to understand from like a marketing point of view is years ago, and I know it's a little bit different with DeFi because, you know, a lot of it has to be a little bit under the radar, and you know, a lot of people are anonymous in the teams and stuff. But if you think historically to marketing, they would pay an actor or an actress on TV to do this advert, or they would pay to put it in a newspaper or a magazine. And media evolves and media changes. And actually, if people on YouTube or people on Twitter or TikTok are the ones with the audience, and that's where people are consuming content, then it's natural that advertising would move in that direction too, right?
Yeah.
You know, I don't get the hate for, and don't get me wrong, shilling something that's like a pump and dump is obviously not the right thing to do. But for me, if an influencer gets paid to do an AMA or paid to do, you know, a review on a project, and it's informative and it's not biased, then I don't really understand what the problem is, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and traditionally, so shill is a word that existed before crypto, right? And a shill traditionally would be someone that would be in the audience that was actually part of the business. And someone would go up and do a sales speech. And then someone in the audience who was a paid actor would be like, oh, yeah, this is awesome. I'm going to go buy 50 of them. And so it's actually like it's a real thing in marketing for a long time. And I never want to do that. I mean, if somebody is actually, okay, they paid me, so I'm going to say good things about them, even though I don't think good things about them, I would be against that. Like if Steph Curry actually hated FTX and he came on and said FTX is great, then yeah, I would probably have a problem with that because it's lying essentially. But I try to never do that. I was even like, okay, nobody can fault me if I just put out my exact numbers each month and I say, here's exactly where I put every dollar in each project. But it's still, people would say, oh, you're a shill for that project. I'm like, no, look, I ddidn't put any money into that project. And I'm telling you, I'm not putting any money into it. To me, that's like anti-shill. But it's just, no matter what you do, people are going to get upset because the indignation feels good. And when you're hurting, you lost money or something like that, it feels good to have someone to blame it on. And it's like, you know what, honestly, maybe I can just be that for them. Like maybe I can just be that for you. Yeah, I'll be the one that you can hate so you don't feel bad about your losses in DeFi. And maybe that's what I'm here for them. And maybe I'm okay with that. So
yeah, it's, you know, I think you've got a really healthy look on it, to be honest. I don't think many people would be able to take it on the chin so well.
Well, it didn't start this way. I'll say that. It was quite a journey. There was a lot of nights where I was just talking with my wife and just, I don't know if I want to keep doing this YouTube stuff. Like, people are upset no matter what happens. I have no control. Like a lot of the things that I get heat for are, I'll do an AMA with the project and then they'll go do something. I'm like, well, I have no control. Like, they rug pulled. Like, well, I have no control over it. All I can do is talk with them. And I mean, I don't know what else I can really do, but there was a lot of nights where I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. But just kind of, again, my community, they were like, hey, no, we appreciate this journey that you're on. And so just kind of narrowing my focus to, hey, I'm doing it for them. Again, similar to how I think you guys with MDB, it's like, hey, we're doing this for our community. We're not doing it for the world or anything like that. Like, we're doing it for the community. And that kind of keeps you going. Yeah,
absolutely. Like from an MDB point of view, we always say, you know, we're not one of these projects that's like you come into our server and it's like, buy, you've got to buy. It's like, do you know what? Have a read through everything. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. Like, that's absolutely fine. And I think it's really important to remember that, you know, we're not here to please everybody. It's impossible, right? So yeah, it's a tricky one, I think, like you say, and it is a journey at first. I think it's really, really hard sometimes to rationalize, you know, in your own mind, actually, these people are just, you know, they're putting something on me that's not actually my fault. But once you realize that and you're okay with that, I think, you know, you can just brush it off, right?
Yep. And realizing, like, a lot of, I think, YouTubers or influencers, at times they can take their, you know, worth and things from the way that people view them, the way that their subscribers view them. That's what energizes them and fills them up. And I found it's too shaky of ground to kind of stand on, is what I
Yeah.
found. You got to find your worth and your fulfillment in another way. Like for me, it would be my faith, obviously. Like that's what, hey, God, are you happy with me? Okay, well then this is Joe Schmo, who I don't even know their name. And you know, sometimes they're like, you're leading your followers into ruin. I say, well, where are you? And I look at them and I'm like, well, where are you leading? You have 7 followers. You know, where are you leading your 7 followers? You know, and it's so. And then my family's been a huge help too. My wife has been like, hey,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about crypto, but I know that you're not, you don't say things that you don't mean. And so,
Yeah.
you know, that's always helpful too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So talk to us a bit more about your faith, James. Obviously, you're, you know, really open about it online and stuff. So where did that start? Is it something that's always been part of your life, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up in like a pretty conservative church, fundamentalist church. And so it was always like a part of my life, but I didn't necessarily buy into it totally. It was kind of just like, okay, my parents do this. I don't want to go to hell. So yeah, okay, I guess I'm a Christian per se.
Yeah.
But then meanwhile, I was through high school, for example, I was really depressed. I was looking to sports and to girlfriends. Like that's what I was looking to for fulfillment. That's what made me excited, was like, oh, I'd score a touchdown in football. Sorry, American football, not soccer.
Don't
Yeah.
get it confused.
Can't get it confused. Yeah. But I'd score a touchdown and then, like, you know, everybody's cheering for you and you're like, okay, this fills me up a little bit. But then I spent all my time just running around trying to be filled up by things in the world that you don't have control over. Like, she's my wife now, but we dated through high school actually. And she broke up with me our senior year. And I remember just being like, my life is over. This is what I was living for. And it really caused me to think about, hey, wait a second. This is not what the Bible says. Like the Bible says you find your joy in God and in the future that you have to look forward to with him. You don't find it in your girlfriend or in your sports or in your money, because all those things, you know, fluctuate. And so if your joy is in those things, your joy is going to fluctuate. Okay, I'm in a good mood today because the markets are up. I'm in a bad mood tomorrow because the markets are down. And yeah, when you can, you know, Jesus says he's the solid rock. He's the solid ground. It's foolish to build your life on sand. You want to build it on a rock, because then nothing can affect it. And so just over time, I've realized the things that the Bible says has been confirmed in me. Like it says money won't make you happy. And I remember thinking, yeah, right. That was written by a poor person. I know it. That's not true. But then you know, you get the money and you build your dream house. Like ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to build my dream house, and I finally did it. And then, yeah, it made you happy for maybe like 2 weeks. And then it's like, okay, well now it's a house. Now what's next? So I got to go get a yacht now? I mean, is that the next thing? And so just the things the Bible said were continually confirmed to me that, hey, sex isn't the answer. Money's not the answer. People aren't even necessarily the answer. But God is the answer. And it's just been confirmed to me over and over again. It's just made me more bold. And, you know, a lot of my audience are kind of, I would say they're young men is my primary audience, is 22-year-old men is wanting to get rich. And so one of the things I want to do is like help guide them. I do want to help people make more money. I want to help them get out of their 9-to-5 jobs if they don't like them. But I want to also help teach them that, like, hey, this isn't going to make you happy. You think that when Lambo is like the question in the universe, but I know a lot of people with Lambos and they're not happy. Like that's not the key to joy. So yeah, just helping guide kind of young men through what I've already kind of been through. But but yeah, that's a huge part. And it's hard to know how to fit that into my channel, because my channel is like passive income or crypto. And it's like, well, how do you work in the fact that if all I do is help you make money, I feel like I've failed in what I'm trying to do as a YouTuber. So that's been an interesting journey as well.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. I grew up in I'd say a Catholic family, not strictly practicing or anything like that. I'm part Italian, so that's where sort of the Roman Catholic comes from. And I went to a Catholic school, and it's not something I actively practice as an adult really at all, but I'd never really considered, and actually I think it's a really nice way that you put it, that actually, your faith is almost your one constant. It's your rock, right. A bit of reliability and a bit of stability. And actually, I think that's a really great way to look at it. And, some people find that in faith, some people might find that in other ways. But I think having that one constant is actually really important for like mental health, for a sense of self, a sense of purpose. So
yeah, absolutely. And, and sometimes people go to like, even your spouse or your kids, like I think that's too much pressure to put on them. Like your kids are not designed to hold up your joy and your dreams and your hope. Like that's not why your kids are there. And so if you can go somewhere else, you can go to the Lord and say, hey, this is where I find my hope, my joy. Then you can just pour out to the people around you. Like, I don't need anything from my kids. I don't need anything from my wife. I can just be there to pour out to them because I'm getting filled up from somewhere else. And the Bible says, and God never runs out. People run out. If you go to people too much,
run out.
Yep, they run out. But God never does. So every morning I can go and get more and just be reminded of his love for me and the future I have to look forward to. And then I can go through my day saying, hey, I don't need to be filled up by you. How can I pour into you? And then and people gravitate towards that. People are looking for they don't want the leechers. They want someone who pours into them. So
no, that's really like the way you put it is super interesting. And like I say, like having grown up within quite a strict faith, actually Catholic, like being a Catholic, and I don't think it was ever really put across to me as a child actually in that way. Maybe it was a bit above my child brain, maybe, I don't know. But
no, and that's and you have to be careful opening the religion box with me, because I used to be a pastor, so I like preaching, I like monologuing but that's the problem a lot of people have with Christianity. Is it's not really a problem with God, it's not really a problem with Jesus, it's a problem with the church and with the way people have used religion to get their own ends. And it turns a lot of people off to Jesus. The church turns a lot of people off to Jesus. And so that's another thing I want to get across to people is like, hey, your experience with the church is not your experience with God. That's experience with people who tried to use God to do one thing or another. Like I see in churches, people using God to work their way up the ranks or to make more money or all sorts of things. And that's not God. That's people messing up, which is what the world is full of, people messing up. And so again, that's why I like God. He's good.
He's good. What I like about it, James, what I like about your whole sort of philosophy around it is it almost forces you in the most like positive way to actually just find that fulfillment within. And I think so many people, particularly in this day and age where we've got like mass consumerism, we've got like the internet where you can just access anything and everything, you can be anonymous, you can be whoever you want, actually to be able to find that fulfillment within something inside you, whether that's your faith or something else. I think that's such an important message to send out actually. So
I agree that you have to find a rock. And a lot of times, I'll say this too, a lot of times people, they do look to their spouse as their rock. And that's why I think that's one of the reasons the divorce rate is so high, is because your spouse will let you down from time to time. She'll be cranky today. And if I'm looking for, I need my wife to fill me up today, and I go to her and she's cranky for something, she didn't get enough sleep or something, then I'm shattered. First off, I get angry at her, and then I'm like, hey, you're supposed to be my rock. What's going on here? And so I found it's way better for marriage, way better for relationships. Yeah. Like you said, finding your rock somewhere else. And for me, yeah, again, that's God. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's a great message. Great message. I'm really guilty of it. And it's no secret that Danny and I are together. And sometimes I'm like, hang on a minute, like if I've had a particularly bad day and I'm like, why aren't you fixing my bad day for me? And it's not his job to fix my bad day,
Yep. Absolutely. And
my bad day.
yeah. And it's too much pressure. I see that a lot with kids, where parents are looking to their kids for fulfillment. And I'm like, hey, that's so messed up. Like, let your kids be looking to you for things. Don't be like, so yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff to work through in life for sure. Emotionally, financially, spiritually, relationally. There's just so much to work through.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so moving on to a slightly different topic. So sort of heading back to your YouTube content a little bit. So obviously you do a lot of DeFi, a lot of crypto, but you do also, your niche, I suppose, rather than just DeFi and crypto, also is a bit around passive income. So what would you say, your biggest successes with passive income are? Is it DeFi? Is it something different? How are you finding that at the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, kind of my journey with DeFi is, I think my true passion is passive income, and it's helping. Again, I hated working 9 to 5. Again, my kids were sitting at home. We homeschool, and I'm spending most of the day at work, and I didn't like the setup. So I was like, well, hey, I want to make enough income outside of a normal W-2 employer where I can have more freedom to do whatever I want. And so I think that's where my passion really lies, is helping people make money outside of having an employer. And so crypto, during the bull market, especially, crypto was like the number one way to do that. Like, I'm part of all investment classes. I have stock, I have real estate, I have business debt, I have venture, equity in different businesses. Like, I have a little bit of everything. And during the bull market, crypto was by far the number one way to make passive income. And I hadn't been around for the last bear market, so I didn't really know how that was going to affect things. And so during the bear market, it's been more difficult because, maybe for a lot of people, DeFi is not the number one or the only way to make passive income. Maybe it should be part of a bigger strategy. And so then I've kind of tried to balance that in my content where, hey, I used to be crypto every single day. And I'm even trying to get away from like too many new projects, just because I was getting burned out, and I know my audience was getting burned out. We don't have capital to put into 50 projects a week. So I've been shifting more to low capital things that you can do, side hustles where you can actually get more of an income. Because then if you have more of an income, then you can have more to put into investments to get passive income. So just trying to kind of see where my passion is and where I can best serve my audience, my community. So I've kind of been broadening out a little bit from DeFi into, hey, there's other ways to make money. And, maybe starting a side business. That's how I made my money. I didn't make my money investing in DeFi. Like, that's not how I made, 7 figures. I made it through starting my own business. And so kind of just trying to be helpful for people is really what I'm after. So.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know, one of my favorite video series is one of yours, and it's where you just show your spreadsheet with all of your investments on it. And I just find it fascinating. Like, I watch it equally like impressed and equally like furious that I didn't start investing sooner.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel better, during the bear market, the spreadsheet has gotten less fun to look at. Each month, I'm like, there's another project that's gone. Oh, there's another project that's gone.
I know,
And
the market has been rough.
That's why I'm thankful for MDB. MDB.
Well, one of the performers. Thankfully, do you know, I don't really diversify very much.
Well, it'd probably be weird if you did.
Yeah, I'm when it comes to like crypto, I'm pretty much all in one place. And I do a little bit of like stocks and shares, nothing crazy. Just because I need to educate myself more before, putting a ton of money into anything.
Yeah. Well, this is why I've been focusing on making more income, is because most people's strategy, at least here in the US, I assume it's probably the same over there, but is okay, I'll make a little bit of extra money. I'll put it in the stock market. I'll get an average of 7% a year. And in 40 years, I'll have enough to quit my 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't want you to work 40 years in something you don't like to retire. Like, I would rather you do something that you don't really even want to retire from, where you
Yeah.
enjoy what you're doing day after day. And so that's where, crypto can be a shortcut where, hey, you might not need 40 years. You might be able to cut that down to 5 years or 10 years, or depending on what if you get into Shiba Inu at a certain price, it can take you 3 months. And so, but there is a lot of risk there, and I don't want to abandon, like, hey, put aside a little bit, and in 40 years, you'll have a lot of money. That still, I think, should be part of our investment strategy.
Yeah.
But I just want more for people. Like, I want you to be able to quit your job within the next 5 years if you don't like it. And so crypto for me has been a big part of that. If you run the numbers, even with real estate making 10% a year, you're going to have a significant amount of capital before you're going to be able to make enough money to actually do anything.
Yeah.
And so that's where businesses can come in, where it's like, okay, if I can make an extra $1,000 a month, then I can put that into real estate or something. And that can really help speed up my time horizon. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And a lot of it's a work in progress. Like, I'm trying to, you read traditional investors, they don't talk about crypto. Like Warren Buffett, he's here in Nebraska where I am, and he doesn't talk about crypto. And so it's kind of like, well, how can I take the principles that he has that are good, but integrate also some other things? Like, he's not a programmer, he's not into crypto. And so, like, trying to integrate all these things into helping my audience. That's basically what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Do you know, I came across a subreddit recently, and it was one of the FIRE ones, like financial independence, retire early.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And someone had commented saying they were getting, I think, like a bonus from work. I think it was UK based. So I don't know, £5,000. And should they put it in, stocks and shares, like an ETF or something, or should they put it into crypto that returns, I think it was something like 6% a year? And they didn't specify which crypto, but, I guessed it was like, top 10, Central Exchange, Binance, something like that. So something, safe in terms of crypto terms. And they just got hammered, like absolutely hammered, jumped on for mentioning crypto. I feel like a lot of traditional investors aren't open to learning more about crypto, in my experience.
Oh yeah. Well, and part of the problem is, like, before crypto, I scoured all investment classes to look for. And like, if you can find something that makes you a 15% a year, that's like a home run in traditional investing. Like, oh wow, 15K or 15% a year. And so then you get into crypto, and the first thing you see is like, the first thing I saw was strong nodes, which was 26% a month. And it was like, well, there's no way that this can be legitimate in any way. Like, it's so far away from traditional investing that it's really hard for traditional investors to wrap their mind around it.
Yeah.
But I look at it just similar. Anytime you have disruptive technology, there is going to be a time, at least, where there is a disproportion between risk and reward in certain things. We saw this with the internet. There's going to be significant risk, like we saw with the .com bubble, where there's significant risk because it's new. It's a new asset class. We don't know how it's going to work out, what this is going to do to the world, but there's significant reward if you're able to. And that is why I try to diversify. I'm not very good at calling winners and losers, I've found out. And so for me, I've had better success in like spreading out. And then, you try to win 60% of your trades. No, there's no traders who try to trade at 100%. Like, that's just not a thing that traders do. So you try to win 60%, and maybe 10% of that is like home runs. And then you expect, okay, 40% I'm going to lose on. That's kind of been my approach. But yeah, you're totally right. Traditional investors, just have no concept of anything over, 20% a year is like, no, there's no way that can be legitimate. So when I come in saying 2000% a year, you get laughed at for sure.
Yeah, it's wild. I was just shocked. It goes a bit back to our point that we were saying earlier about how non-crypto people just don't get it. And yeah, I definitely found that with investments. But I think you're right. I think, so my sister-in-law, she is a teacher and she teaches like college age kids, so 16, 17, 18. And she said so many of them, they don't want to like do anything with their lives. They just want passive income. They want to be, like Andrew Tate. They want to be big on TikTok and just make money through nothing really, Yeah. And it's crazy that that's, what so many of like these younger generations are aspiring to do. And I think actually the best way to get started is to earn money, right? You've got to have the money in the first place to be able to invest it. And yeah, you might get lucky and, stick a $5 in a token that moonshots it and, you make 5,000 and then you can flip that. But it's just so unlikely. And I think you actually need to really build a solid foundation first. Like with a side hustle or something where actually you are making an income as opposed to, this magic passive income that seems to be that everyone's goal at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about side hustles and starting your own business is you're the one in control. Because usually what I've found is most of my investments, crypto investments, the reason they fail is because I wasn't in control. Like if somebody else is like, I'm giving you my money, but then I have to rely on you making ethical decisions, wise decisions, and not losing all my money. And what we found in crypto time and time again, whether it be ethical or just competency, we've seen, okay, I'm giving you my money, I'm putting my trust in you. And we've just seen time and time again where people, usually it's ethical or it's ethical problems, but people just, oh, you took my money, you took my money, you took my money. So if you are an employee or you have your own business or a side hustle, the best part of that is, in a large part, you're in control of how well you do. So, I mean, if you're a good employee, you can work your way up the ranks and you can make more money. If you start your own business, if you are ethical and you are competent, you can get your business to make more money. And so, yeah, the problem with, like you said, kids thinking, oh, I'll just do passive income. And that's all they're thinking about is, okay, well, you got to find, who are you going to find who you can trust that much to do that for you? And where do you get the money to invest in them?
I know.
And so I think you're totally right. And that's part of, again, why I want to just, I want to help teach young men to work hard. I think that's something that, if you get too far on the passive income train, you start thinking, oh, lazy. Then I can watch Netflix all day.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And like nothing in me wanted to quit my 9 to 5 so that I could watch Netflix. Like there was none of that in me. So yeah, there's a lot of lessons. One other thing I'll say about that too, I actually had a guidance counselor here in Lincoln where I live. And he said, hey, could you come speak to students? Because 70% of students that I counsel say they want to be influencers when they grow up. And he's like, well, can you just talk to them about what that's like? And so I'm going to be doing that here in a while. And I'm kind of thinking, I think I might just try to discourage people from being influencer, because you can't have, if 70% of people are influencers, then influencer doesn't mean anything. It's just everybody.
Absolutely. But in recent years as well, you've seen the rise of like these micro influencers. Actually don't have many followers at all, but they're so engaged with their audience that people are still willing to pay them for, advertising or giving an opinion on a product. And I just think you're right. Like at what point does it stop? Everyone can't be an influencer, because then you're all on the same level, right? So
yep. But I think it comes back to that same thing of wanting the passive income, where it's like, I want an easy life, it's kind of, I think, what is at the heart. And when Lambo, I see that question so much, when Lambo. And I just want to help tell people that's a dumb question. Stop asking that. It's a dumb question.
I think as well, I think a Lambo, if you're really interested in like passive income and investing, you know, making your finances work for you, I think a Lambo is a terrible investment.
Yeah, right. And I'm not
Uh,
against nice things, like that's fine. But if like your goal is I want to get a Lamborghini, like that's just man, you gotta have bigger goals. You gotta have bigger goals for your life. Again, not to bring this back to faith again, but someday you're gonna die. Like everyone is gonna die, whether you're 80 or maybe younger. You're gonna die, and having a Lambo is not going to have. It's not going to affect anything. That's not on your deathbed. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm so glad I got that Lambo before I died.
you can get
And
buried in it.
yeah, exactly. We actually, I was at a investment group, and if anybody that was there is watching this, I mean, no offense to any of us, but we were calculating, hey, when are you going to reach 8-figure net worth? When are you going to reach 9-figure net worth? And we were doing some calculations, and it said, James, you might reach an 8-figure or maybe 9-figure by the time you're 87 years old. And then I was kind of just thinking there, it struck me. I was like, when I'm 87, I'm not going to care if I have, 9-figure net worth. Like I'm going to be about dead. Like that's going to be totally useless. And it really, I just was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like think that way about money. So that was a kind of a pivotal moment in my life and my thinking as well.
Yeah, it is. It's so true. And I think with all of this, and I think it is really generational, and I think it is massive at the minute with the younger generation that are just coming through into the workplace and stuff now. I don't think that when you're that young you think that far ahead,
right?
So you don't really have the foresight or the life experience to think, do you know what, actually, what do I want out of this? Not a Lambo, but what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? And no one just wants their life to look like they've got a Lambo on the drive.
Right.
That isn't a life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's what we're trying to. I'm sure you've experienced this with your kids, but when kids are young, like 2 and 4, they only think about 5 minutes ahead, right? And that's why they're like, I want infinite candy, because they're not thinking about any longer than just the next 5 minutes. Then as kids get older, what we want to do is we want to help teach them, hey, don't think 5 minutes ahead. Think, when they get to be 8 or 9, think a year ahead, think 5 years ahead. Then we start teaching them, hey, what are you going to do for college? Think 10 years ahead. And then we want to start teaching 20-year-olds, think 40 years ahead, think 50 years ahead. And again, one of the things I want to do is help people keep going on that journey. And I want you to think 10,000 years ahead. Like what happens after you die, and like what legacy are you leaving, and those types of things. So, and I think that's wisdom. The further out that you can look forward, I call that wisdom. Like that's what wisdom is. And so again, that's something I want to teach on my channel.
Yeah. And I think that's something, actually, that sort of ability to look so much further ahead. For me personally, that really hit home once I'd had kids.
Yes.
Because I was like, do you know what do I want the world to be for them? What world do I want them to live in? What do I want to, leave to them? What legacy will they have to live with? And when I realized, actually, my actions have a huge impact on these two little humans that aren't really here through any choice of their own or anything like that. I think that's when your perspective I found really starts to change. And I think the earlier actually you can get that, if you can nail that before you've had kids, I think you're in a great place.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. And again, and it's a learning process for everyone. Like we're all learning too. I don't want anyone to hear this and think, oh no, I've got so much I need to work on, I'm doing so poorly. Like we're all works in progress. We're all just where we're at, and we're learning as we go. And so again, and I just want to be a tool, a resource for people. I've gone through a lot of things financially, and just want to help people on their journeys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, one final question, James, because we have been talking for quite a while now. I'm going to ask everyone this that joins our podcast. I think it's a really interesting question. I think it hopefully gives a little bit of insight to you that maybe we haven't seen on your channel or on your previous podcast. But who would you say your 3 biggest influences are, and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think about this too often. So Yeah, you might have to define influencer because obviously, like, who I mainly look to. So I spend a lot of time in the Bible.
Yeah.
So I mean, like Jesus and
Hmm.
Paul maybe would be like my biggest David. But as for like people, I mean, I would never tell her this to her face, but my wife, I really, no, I'm just kidding. I would tell her, but I really look up to her. Like she's been just really, yeah, I mean, she just is, she's very wise and I'm
Yeah.
just really look up to that. And so that would be an influencer, I suppose. Now, if you want to talk about like traditional influencers, I like the way like Jordan Peterson thinks. It's just been helpful in my thinking. If you get into the crypto world, there's not really I mean, I have friends like your friend
Yeah.
Andy. I really look up to him as a YouTuber. Jesse Eckel, I think I kind of got my inspiration for like showing my actual numbers from him. I was because I kind of thought, oh, you're not supposed to show how much money you make. And then I saw Jesse was doing it and people liked it. And I was like, oh, it is okay. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I've taken inspiration from him. There's not a lot of honestly, I don't watch a lot of influencers or listen to a lot of influencers.
What about like in your day-to-day life, like friends, family, celebrities,
Um,
even?
yeah. I mean, my wife, we have some students that live with us. Like we have a guy from Cameroon that lives with us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and like he's just brought a whole different perspective to things, like a non-American perspective that has
Mhm.
really challenged me a lot because there's a lot of things that the reason I thought a certain way or did a certain thing was just because that's how Americans do it.
Yeah.
And being challenged, well, hey, is that really the best thing to be doing? Is that the wisest way to be living? Like for instance, just the way that we are attached to our phones and just
Mm,
scroll Instagram all day and like even at meals, like you go out to
yeah.
eat and you see at tables where everybody's on their phone and we're just so addicted to that. And that's a pretty Western thing. It's
Yeah.
not really an African thing.
Yeah.
And so I would say that's influenced me a lot. Um, no
Interesting.
celebrities really. There's not a lot of celebrities that I like look up to or am like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to. I mean, I think there's little things you can take from everyone. So no
Yeah.
matter who I'm watching, even Keeping Up with the Kardashians,
Yeah.
I'll watch
You're a
that.
Kim
In
fan,
the
James.
what's that?
You're a Kim fan.
I'm a Kim fan. Yeah, but I mean, there's like, oh, there's aspects to her that I can learn from. Like, I mean, there's
Absolutely.
aspects I definitely don't want to learn from. Like, I'm not going to dress that way personally. It wouldn't go as well for me. I probably wouldn't have as many viewers on YouTube if I did. But there's things you can learn from everyone. Like everyone has different life experiences, different thoughts.
Hmm.
So I guess maybe that would be my answer. Everyone is my favorite
Everyone.
influencer.
Great
Is
answer.
that is
Very
that a cheat answer?
diplomatic.
Yeah, that's people pleaser.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, James. It's been great having you. And I'll link James's YouTube and everything so people can go and check him out. If you don't already follow him, go and have a look. But otherwise, yeah, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I am happy to come back anytime that you would like me. So I enjoy talking. So I suppose YouTube's a good place for me.
Great
So
place. Perfect place.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Bye.